What they did back in August. And I have John Tuohy on the line from Mile Marker Zero. John, welcome back to Captain Phil's Planet. How are you, my friend?
Thank you, Captain Phil. Doing good, man. You know, things are starting to feel like there's maybe a hope of them coming back to normal sooner than later, which always makes me feel excited.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't have the new normal. We will have a totally new normal, not the old normal,
right?
And not the new normal. Just like a better educated, a respecter of viruses and microbes. Normal.
That's the hope. That's the hope. So we can get out and play again, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking of playing, John, when this album came out, when this concert happened, I was listening to it and I was just so impressed with the overall sound and everything. And I remember saying to you, it was either, because you did several of these, I said, you should release these. And I'm so glad that you did, because it sounds great. It's really, really a cool thing. So when you guys hit the road again and when you can play gigs again, you're going to have new merch.
New merch is always good. Yeah. Well, you know, it was very interesting in a lot of ways when everything got locked down, as I'm sure you remember, especially, you know, people who have to go out and play for a living, say, were like, what do we do? Like, you know, this is what we do. We write, we record, and we play, you know, and the playing aspect is such a huge part of it. There was a time where I was like, how long is it going to be before we can actually go out there and play? I mean, like everyone, we had gigs that got canned. We had we had some big things in the works, some really great shows and things like that. And then it was all put on hold as it still is to today. So when it came to maybe doing some of these live concerts, when they first started, appearing, virtual streaming concerts, we were like, yeah, we need to get on this. I mean, if this is what we're going to do in this time, we want to do it. So thank you for referring to saying that you like the sound. We worked really hard to do, and obviously we have Jocko, who's my bass player, who also mixed the album. He also mixed the last album, The Fifth Row. So he got us to a point where, using our home studio here, we could get it to sound pretty good as just the live stream. We wanted to make sure that people could watch and go, wow, this really sounds like if I was there at a concert, And so it was really a matter of just a couple touch-ups in order to get it ready for a final release like we have coming out April 2nd.
And also it's tremendously accessible to new fans, because it's nothing like, a fan of progressive rock or just music in general, or a fan of boy bands, sitting on Facebook and all of a sudden Mile Marker Zero virtual concerts or virtual whatever, pops up in your Facebook feed and is like, well, it's not going to hurt if I look at this for 30 seconds. And when you guys are up and running and really got it cooking, man, people aren't going to tune away after 30 seconds. They're going to stick around and see what happens next. And you managed to maintain your energy, of a Mile Marker Zero concert in person on those virtual shows. It was really, really quite good, and it was always, it wasn't the same. It was different, but it was different in a good way. It was like, yeah, this is like another tool on Batman's belt.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, that was like the grappling hook or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the smoke bomb that he throws on the ground when he wants to impress the Joker.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. We didn't know. I mean, this was the first one we had done over when things got locked down. We had some small little things, like individual things we did, but this was the first, like, okay, we're going to play a show. So we didn't know if it would, like you said, translate. We thought, is it going to be kind of strange? Is it going to have the energy? Is it going to, come across like we would come across live? And luckily, we were really firing on all cylinders. And I think that we have been confined for so long and uncertain. This was like one thing that we could be certain about, is that we're going to put 150% into the performance and let it be what it is. And it turned out great. So we're very excited about it.
Yeah. And and as you listen to it, as you watch these concerts, you have the Mile Marker Zero show from the fans, the established fans, the fans that you already have in your wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. But it was also very accessible. So somebody who was new to your stuff can say, "Oh, I like this," or "What else have they done?" So I think it was not a perfect world, but I think you were making best of a bad situation and growing with it. And the fact that you guys were recording as well was really, really great. John, before I get, because I do have to stop at 4:45 for sports, but I want to make sure we get the pertinent information out there.
Absolutely.
You told me before we brought on the air that this is a digital download, this live concert, but it's also going to be a hard copy. Where can people find this music, this CD, the Mile Marker Zero Live and Confined CD or download?
Well, we're going to be taking pre-orders for the physical copy on April 2nd, which is next Friday, on Bandcamp. You can go to bandcamp.milemarkerzero.com, and that's also the day that everything gets released to streaming platforms. So if you're like I am, or like a lot of our fans are, they like to hear the new thing, but then they want to actually own a piece of it. So that you can go and check it out on all the typical streaming platforms. The album's called Live and Confined, and we are then that day taking pre-orders for the physical disc, which will be out after that.
Awesome. And I have to stop myself from saying live and confused.
Maybe we were a little confused too. It's possible.
Or dazed and confused. Like the word confined in there, when you read it and you have like progressive lenses like I do, is like, does that say confused or confined? It took a while for it to gel for me. I love Bandcamp Fridays, and I have been buying a lot of my music on Bandcamp Fridays. So what happens on the first Friday of the month on Bandcamp, any music you buy, either as a download or a physical media, 100% of the money you spend goes to the band in question. Bandcamp does not take out any fees. The fees are low to begin with, so if you decide if you for whatever reason can't buy music on Bandcamp Fridays and you decide to support a band on any other day, the band is still getting a really decent, as compared to other streaming services, a decent hunk of change.
They're really, Bandcamp's been amazing doing the first Friday of every month.
The only way that you can do better is like if you go to a Mile Marker Zero show and just like hand you cash in person.
Yeah, which is fine too. When we start playing again, everyone's more than welcome.
Cash is always good.
Huh?
But no, I'm so glad you're going to be releasing it that way. So you'll want to look up bandcamp.com and Mile Marker Zero as well. And of course, all your other previous albums are available on Bandcamp as well, right, John?
Absolutely. Yep. And you can go, if you want to go to our main hub website, that's just milemarkerzero.com. And there's links to everything there. So if that's easier, then go forth.
Oh, I have to ask you, now I watched a bunch of your concerts. There was you did, I don't know if it was this concert, but you were playing, and then all of a sudden you kept playing over on Facebook one time, which I thought was crazy awesome. You just kept going, but it wasn't like an official thing. But then you did this crazy Halloween show where you all dressed up as scary bunnies or something.
Yes. Yeah.
What was that all about? And why, John, were you trying to scare Captain Phil? I mean, I remember watching Night of the Lepus, in the 70s. I don't know if you know that movie. It's about giant rabbits in Texas. and I'm like, these rabbits have turned into Mile Marker Zero. It's very scary.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, it wasn't. Well, we have sort of a history. I'll give you a condensed version. First of all, we've always had a great time playing in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is one of our favorite cities to play. They seem to really love progressive rock, and 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe longer, we had talked about, let's go down to Philly and let's play a Halloween show. That would be so much fun, like a progressive rock Halloween show. We'll dress up. Dave, my lead singer, found these crazy masks that were like $5 on Amazon or whatever it was, and they just looked kind of scary. We're like, wow, this is kind of fun. And so we ended up doing writing like this Halloween medley, which at first was like only 20 minutes, and then it expanded out to about 50 minutes with video and all these things. And we pretty much once a year, so maybe it's every couple years, we bust it out. We play a gig or two for fun. But this year we were like, look, if we can't go anywhere and play this thing, let's do a thing. And my singer Dave is also a great video editor and things like that. So he was like, yeah, I think we could actually, what if we filmed it and then we streamed it like we did the other concert, like the Live and Confined concert. And I was like, that's a great idea. So we set up in the studio and we did this whole project, which I'm sure we'll do something with at some other point. We just wanted it to be a fun live stream concert, and to have it live just for that moment.
It was nice to have something to do for Halloween. Back when my kids were younger, we were the house to go to on Halloween back in the day. And I would put crap out on the front lawn, like starting in August. Skeletons. And, one year, my son had surgery on his tendons, and he was in like these long casts. So we had a ramp put on the house, and then he got cut out of the cast eventually. But we left the ramp up, and I put like this red tablecloth on it to make it look like a tongue. Yeah. And I put eyes in the windows. I found these eyes on Amazon. And I put, one eye in windows to make it look like a face. And then we made cardboard teeth, and made it Monster House. And, I loved Halloween. It was so great. Then, of course, my Jamie went off to college. My son Philip, he's up here. He's multiply handicapped, so he's in a group home up here with us now. But like that last year when the kids went away, it was like Halloween was over. Like Halloween, like trick-or-treating would stop at like 5:30. And you're like, and I'm like, whatever you do, don't open up the bag from Costco, because we can still return it,
Yeah, it's otherwise we're all going to eat it. Yeah.
Well, nobody wants. Well, you only would buy the cheap stuff too. Nobody wants sweet tarts. They stink,
Yeah, and this year especially, right? It was so. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, that's one of the things that kids in the neighborhoods just love. I mean, across the country just love going out for Halloween, and it's still one of those just purely fun holidays, and celebrations. And of course, if you're an adult, you can do all sorts of fun Halloween parties and things like that. And so we obviously couldn't do what we normally do, and it was like, okay, well, nobody can do what they normally do. So what if we stream it on this day? And so that was the impetus there.
So that's the next question is, Halloween 2021, will this be? If it can't be in person, will it be? Will you do something streaming again, or maybe you can do both?
We might. We got to see we have to see sort of what the winds of fortune bring us. I mean, if things are open,
the cold, cruel wind.
Yeah, the old cruel wind. That's right. But I mean, we would love to do it live again. I mean, it's so much fun. Everybody has a great time, and we have a little ritual of doing it and everything. So I don't know yet, but we would love to do it live if the option is even available for us in the fall. We hope so.
I used to have a saying back in the day when my kids were small, and I would like dress up as Frankenstein, or I was a zombie one year. I had like blood all over my face and a fright wig, or whatever. And I'd say it's not Halloween until somebody cries. Every year I made some kid cry. They would not come up the street. They were like, I'm afraid of that scary man sitting on the porch. It's great. Loved it. I loved it. Oh, no, those were the good old days. And up here, now that I live upstate near Albany, nobody trick-or-treats here. Nobody. There's there's nothing. We actually drove treats to our neighbors. we made a bag and we drove up the hill and gave them to our neighbors, and that was the extent of it. So yeah, it is. I do miss it. I do miss it. And so that show was great fun that you guys did. Speaking of new stuff, so you've recorded the streaming concert. Is there new Mile Marker Zero stuff in the mix coming down the pike? Is there anything new that's either in the planning stages, or have you started to write or lay down new tracks or anything like that?
The answer is yes. We've been working very, very hard at coming up with really refining our new album, which we're in the thick of writing as we speak. Speaking of tracks, actually on Live and Confined, which is coming out next Friday, there's a unreleased studio track from when we were recording our last album, The Fifth Row, called Think Machine, and that's actually included on it as well. And so when it comes to new material, we've been working really hard, mostly virtually, which is difficult to do. We're the type of band that typically would just set up and start working on things and jamming, and then once we have something, some clay has been molded, then we'll kind of take it back and work on it individually, and then come back together and craft it that way. But that really wasn't possible, at least for the first, 3 to 6 months of the pandemic. So we've been doing what I guess everybody else has sort of been forced to do too, which is write remotely, write on Zoom. And eventually we started getting back together, socially distanced and masked and all that, and started working on stuff. But it's been a challenge to try to get vibes going without actually being there with each other in person for a lot of it. Luckily, it's been a great exercise in expanding on each other's individual strengths, which is great. My keyboardist Mark comes up with, when he has an idea, he comes up with this grand sound palette and all these really great parts for something that is so MMZ, which maybe wouldn't have he come up with if we were in the room together, bouncing stuff back and forth. So I think this new album coming up is going to be yet another level and another angle on what MMZ can do.
Do you guys have an order you go in? Like if you're coming, let's say you come up with an idea for a song or a melody or a fragment of a song, is there a pecking order you bring it around to? Is there a member of Mile Marker Zero that you send it to first before you send it to anybody else, and does it go around the room, or is it everyone at the same time?
We are probably the most democratic band I've ever met, and so there's really no pecking order. Any idea that is good, that beats out another idea, wins. It doesn't matter who it comes from or where it originated or what it has turned into. So it really depends on the song, Sometimes a member will come in with a song that's pretty well worked out, and we have to add our sprinkles to it. But most of the time it goes through this, process, this little meat grinding process to really extract all the great stuff from it, and then we expand from there.
Cool. And then when you're speaking of a democratic process, there are no insurrections or anything, are there? Everyone's cool. If no one said don't you mess with my baby, nothing, that doesn't happen.
In the early days, that happened a lot more. We've really learned how to work on this in with each other in multiple capacities. When we were younger and maybe a little bit more headstrong about saying, no, this has to happen. But, for the most part, we've really worked very well together. That being said, it takes us a very long time because we don't throw out any ideas until we've tried them all. So if someone has 5 ideas about how to work on a particular part of a song, say, or a particular lyric or something like that, we'll try it. And it's never no. We never say no. We say, okay, all right, I don't know if I'm feeling that right now. Let's try it. And if it turns out that's the one that sort of works the best, we go with it.
Nice. I like that, and there's a lot of quality material that Mile Marker Zero has put out over the years. So you can see or hear the effect that has when you go through their back catalog and this new stuff. I have Think Machine queued up. I was originally going to go with The Architect, but I have Think Machine queued up. I just want to make sure that it's safe for radio because I haven't previewed it yet. And if it's cool for me to play, because I know it's a little early, so this is not going to be released until a week from Friday, correct, John?
Yeah, do it. That's cool.
All right, great.
Cool.
So talk to me a little bit more about Think Machine. You said it's an unreleased track from your last album, and what's happening with this track here? Okay,
Think Machine was originally going to be on the Fifth Row. And if I know you're familiar with the Fifth Row, but for those who are listening who aren't, it's a concept album essentially about humanity and AI and what our future is together. Super prog. This was in each part, it's almost like a mini movie for your ears, right? Each part has its own storyline, it has its own characters, and it's kind of culminating towards the end of the song, end of the album. Think Machine was going to be exactly in the center of the album. and that was the original plan anyway, and have it be the machine that becomes self-aware. This is sort of the personification of our AI, which we call Jason, that becomes self-aware and is trying to figure out what to do, because in our story there's a potential conflict, there's a potential war coming up, and this supercomputer AI is kind of programmed to solve problems like this. So we were going to have this in the middle of the disc, and to kind of show the things that the machine is doing in it's an instrumental song in instrumental version of that. But we ended up having so much music, and we kind of got that vibe from some of the other songs that were around it. So we ended up saying, this song is awesome, but it doesn't actually, it's a little bit extra for what we need. So we knew we were going to do something with it at some point, and we had it fully recorded, mixed, mastered, as if it was going to be on the album. And then when the idea came up to put out a live album, we were like, oh, we got to put Think Machine on there, especially for the people who loved The Fifth Row.
Awesome. And it makes me think, the story reminds me of Stephen King, because I'm reading, I forget which novel of Stephen King's I was reading, but I said to myself, it's a shame this guy is so famous, because he really needs an editor. This would be so much better if somebody cut about 300 pages out of it, or 200 pages out of it. So that's really good that you guys had the wherewithal to be able to do that, and to trim and cut and make it out and let an album work, and so refresh my memory again. The AI's name in the Fifth Row is Jason. Jason. Yep. And you avoided using Joshua from War Games.
Well, yes. Well, yes. The only way not to win, not to play, right? Well, it's
you're a young guy. You're not supposed to know that stuff. That's like from my generation, man.
Come on, man. War Games is great, but no. Well, it's actually kind of a funny reason. So JCN, right? We were inspired by. Speaking of Stephen King, right? But we love Stephen King. Many of us are big fans, but we're also inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey, and a lot of these sort of bigger than life concepts in movies, and as we are Terminator, things like that. So when we were wanting to name our supercomputer, we thought, well, what about HAL? But what if we go over one letter? JCN.
That's awesome. I love that. That reminds me of the reason why HAL is named HAL. Do you know why HAL is named HAL?
I don't remember. I did know this at one point. Tell me.
One step above IBM.
IBM. That's right. Yes, we went the other way. That's right. That's right.
That's so cool. You guys are even cooler than. Oh, that's so wild. That is so wild. Watch my Facebook feed. My buddy Roy Belquist has been doing these nerdy sci-fi live streaming shows where he talks about a movie and whatever. He's going to do 2001, I think, either Friday or Sunday. He's going to do 2001. So the only problem when Roy does it, he does the entire he tells you what happens in the movie. So the spoiler alert, there's going to be a bone thrown up in the air, So, that is so cool. So you came after HAL. That is why.
So HAL was the other way, right? And
so IBM.
The other way in the alphabet, we get JCN.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, this is Think Machine, and I'm about to start it. And before I do, I want to remind everybody this is going to be a week from Friday, right, John?
That's correct. April 2nd.
April 2nd, Bandcamp Friday. You go on bandcamp.com, look up mile marker 0, okay, MMZ, and you will have this great new live album, which is terrific, which is really put together really, really nicely, live and confined. And, real quick, is there going to be video of this stuff released down the road, or is that off the table?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to be keep tuned to our socials. It's MMZ Official and Mile Marker 0 on Facebook and MMZ Official everywhere else on the social media. We are going to be putting some video content that goes along with this as we roll it out.
Sweet. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on Captain Phil's Planet again. I'm so glad everyone is doing well. Everybody's family is safe. Everybody's weathering the pandemic storm. Everything's okay.
Yeah. We're trying to get to the end of this thing, man. So
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again, man, and I hope to see you, if not in 2021, I'll definitely see you in 2022. But John, you and the rest of the band, I will always see you on Captain Phil's Planet on WUSB. Take care, my friend.
See you later.
All right, bye-bye.